Good morning, everyone. It says there's 84 people here, so hopefully you can hear us. Welcome to our AECEA Connect session number 4. Whenever you're ready, Laura, you can start sharing slides. I'll just wander through some stuff. So I'm Leah. Welcome. I'm a member of AECEA as well as on the Alberta Leaders Caucus Committee. I don't know what we are, group. And my co-host is Lisa. I'll let you introduce yourself quickly, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Hodges, and I am a board member of AECEA, and I'm thrilled to be with everybody here again today.
So a couple of technology things. We are recording it, so it'll be made available on the AECEA webpage. We will have an opportunity for people to share during the webinar. So just remember that we will unmute you, but you will still have to unmute yourself on your end if you do want to speak. If you don't have a microphone or you're just not up for speaking, you can use the question box to put your questions or your comments in. The questions are only visible by us as presenters, sort of on the back end. So if you do want to make a comment, kind of just make it clear in there and we can read that out to everyone. If you have a question that's a little more personal and you just want to leave that question, for one of us to address later, you can put that in there and we can do that afterwards. You have a hand up function on your little toolbar. So when we get to the sharing part, if you do want to share, you can just put your hand up and then we'll reach out to you and turn the microphones on from our end. If you don't have anything to say, just please be aware of if you're accidentally putting your hand up, because it is tricky. We can't tell whether on our end, whether it's an accident or on purpose. So just kind of be mindful of that as we go along. So welcome. A couple of things for people if you haven't joined before. The purpose of today's session is not necessarily for us to give you a lot of information. It's really for us to hear from one another. So we'll share a bit about what AECEA is doing in the province and how we're working with the provincial and the federal government and other partners to really advocate for the field, for work that's been happening, for communication and all of that. But we really just want to make a space for educators and stakeholders in the field to communicate with one another. So we're going to kind of facilitate that. So part of what we hope that you'll do is help us create a space for respectful feedback. And our priority is really connection. It's not necessarily we don't always have more information than you do. But we want to hear from you about what's important so that we can then advocate on behalf of that, because the more we know about what's happening, the more we can take to government and to other stakeholders to really make that voice amplified for what's going on in the province. So that's kind of where we're at. You can see the agenda. We'll talk a bit about what AECEA is doing. We want to hear about your experiences in this sort of we know everybody's in a bit of a different space. And with that in mind, we just have a really quick poll to kind of start us off. Oh, I have to share my screen, I think. Right? Yes? I will share with you. Okay. So we have our lovely Menti poll. So is your program open? So if you go to menti.com, you can do it on computer, phone, whatever you have, and put in this code, then you can let us know. Are you open? Are you opening soon or not yet? You're still in the process of working it out. That just gives all of us a sense of where everyone's at, because we know that things are in a different space for everybody right now. Am I actually sharing my screen right now? Is that happening?
Yes, you are.
Laura, can you see it? Okay, good. It's like, I don't know if it's working. Oh, one person is open. Good job. It's working. And this is just really helpful to know for all of us to get a sense of where people are at. There's a lot of uncertainty right now for so many different things. And so just really kind of understanding if people are in the process, still figuring it out. It looks like not yet is kind of where a lot of people are at.
And really hats off to everybody that's, you know, in charge of making these decisions of whether or not you open up your program, bring back educators and children. I know that whatever you're deciding, it's not an easy one, and I'm sure your decision is not taken lightly. So yeah.
Absolutely, there's so much to figure out and so much changing information. So it's such a tricky landscape.
And as we know too, many of our programs don't exist by themselves. They're in a lot of other buildings that might not be open yet. So sometimes that decision doesn't even rest on us. There's a lot of other parties that need to be consulted before.
Absolutely. And so many other considerations around sort of what's going to be safe and what's going to be practical. So thank you for
and different parts of the province too. You know, up in Fort McMurray, there's also boil water advisories that we've heard that's still going on right now. So, you know, definitely shout out to everybody up there that has to decide to open up a program with those advisories in place as well.
Totally. There's a lot to navigate. So, all right. So we'll leave that open for a little bit if people want to still add to that, but thank you for just letting us know where you're at. It just, I mean, it gives all of us a sense of kind of what's happening, and none of us are alone in wherever we're at. You know, some of us, you know, everybody's capacity is different, and we're all involved in these very complex decision-making processes. So thank you for letting us know. And when we get to the sharing, hopefully we can hear from people in all of these groups to kind of share what the experience has been, kind of what some of your processes have been, so we can really do some learning about what's working and what's not working, and share that information with one another. And then, you know, as AECE, to really be able to say to government and other stakeholders, like, here's where, you know, here's what's really doing well and where we need to celebrate people, and really acknowledge the hard work that's happening. And here's what we really need some more supports on. So we appreciate your participation. So I will stop sharing my screen. Laura, if you want to go back to the PowerPoint. Oh, you stopped sharing it for me. Yay. That works. And we can do some updates. So I think, yeah, we did that one already. So yeah, if we go to the, and we did the poll, look at us go, we're moving right on. Oh yeah, we wanted to say congratulations. Sorry, this is not very well spoken, but it's just such a different season for graduation. And we know that many new ECEs have just completed their programs, and we want to acknowledge that, you know, this is a great accomplishment and that you've really come through this, and we're very excited to have you and to be working with you. So congratulations to any of you who are on here, who have graduated, or and who are ready to start making an impact in the field.
Yes, and I think that slide, we look forward to working with you for sure.
Absolutely.
So just some updates from AECE. So for those of you who don't know, AECE is the Association of Early Childhood Educators of Alberta. So we're your association, and we continue to look for ways to support educators both in the present conditions that we're working in, or you know, getting back to work in, as well as looking forward and building that quality and sustainable system. So really looking at quality and qualified, compensated educators is really what AECE's mission and focus is on. So AECE has been quite busy with a variety of things over the past couple days, almost, I guess, the past 2 weeks now. But AECE, one of the things AECE was doing is they sent a letter out to the Minister of Children's Services, Rebecca Schultz, and in that letter they were asking for further support and investment for the childcare sector. On May 8th, AECE issued a press release asking the province of Alberta to work with and consult the early learning and childcare sector to address the complex quality, safety, and sustainability challenges facing childcare programs as they begin to reopen and reconstruct the province from the COVID-19 lockdown. On May 14th, AECEA met with Honorable Ahmed Hussein, Federal Minister of Children and Family and Social Development, along with colleagues from other provinces, and they discussed the need for federal leadership for early learning and childcare and the need for strong principles and upcoming agreements or funding transfers from the federal government to provinces and territories. So there's that really focus on system building and moving forward. On May 15, AECEA spoke to Global News about childcare centres needing more support and more funding when they're reopening. Very exciting as well is AECEA welcomed Krista Carter to our team, and Krista is the Stakeholder and Communications Coordinator, and she'll be working to raise the agenda on the importance of early learning for Alberta's children, families, and the economy, and to mobilize evidence-based solutions through strategic communications and stakeholder engagement. So welcome, Krista, and we look forward to connecting. She's also going to be connecting with other organizations in the province as well as CCF, and just try and get some uniformity and also just really focusing on that system building from a federal level. Another thing that's coming up is the licensing regulations are expiring in January 2021. And what AECEA had done prior to all of this is they've got out a recommendations document. It's called Getting It Right, and that can be found on AECEA's website. More importantly, in the next week here, we're very excited to start releasing bits and pieces of that document. So the whole document is released on the website, but what we've done is we've broken it into sections, and those sections are posters, postcards, whatever you want to call it, will begin to be released next week. So starting on Monday, we'll kind of put our highlight points and why we believe them to be important, so that everybody can have a chance to look at them. Please, when they're coming through your social media, make sure you're sharing them out and get people talking, because as the ministry has told us, we've heard that the consultations are going to begin in mid-June. So that's not far away at all, and we really need to make sure that the system that we're building, what do we want in that system that we're building for that future? We have the opportunity now to put some quality into regulations, and what is that going to look like? So just some things to think about. What else are we doing here? So with all of AECEA's work that we are doing, we are a membership-based organization. So if you would like to continue to support some of the wonderful things that are happening with AECEA, please, we would love to welcome you to become members with us. There are lots of different membership options, as you can see on the screen here. So if you are a full-time student, membership is free, which is really nice. Part-time students, $50 plus GST per year. Professional members and associate members are $125 plus GST per year. And really exciting, one of the newest launches that we've done is we now have monthly payment installment options. So for only $10.75 plus GST a month, you can become a member of AECEA and really get behind and support all of this work that AECEA is doing. And then lastly, if for more information, please continue to check out our website. Laura is doing a very, very good job of keeping us updated on what AECEA is doing for you during this time. Like we talked about, regulation review information is going to be on there. So the Getting It Right document, as well as the links to posters that are coming out. Please connect with us on the Facebook page, on our website, and membership can also be found on our website. I think that's everything. Update from AECEA.
Yeah. Laura, do you actually want to pop to the slide before the membership one, the system building one? I just want to comment to there we go, that's the one. Just so that, we kind of have a sense of what that is, that the Getting It Right document in particular and the changes to the licensing regulations, we're really looking at what a system in Alberta would be. And I know many people's experience has been that that's been sort of fractured between, depending on what kind of program you're in or those where you are in the province, but we're really working towards bringing all those voices together. So making sure that there is intentional connection with a lot of different stakeholders and programs and sectors within the field so that we can have a really unified voice, because that's how we have the most power, I guess, when we're communicating with government. And that's why that membership piece is important, so that we have representation from all over the field to make that advocacy really strong. And there's a lot of stuff that's happening on that national level. So like Lisa said, AECE participated in a call with the federal minister, but there's been, you know, pieces where they've been connecting with other provinces and really looking at what would it mean to have a framework for Canada that provinces then kind of make their own. So really unifying, because there's been a lot of cracks, as we all know, that have kind of been illuminated in this crisis and all across the country, that the system is really fragmented, that it doesn't have sustainable funding. And so really looking at what is a comprehensive, supported, and long-term plan for early learning and care in Alberta, where we can really have a strong voice, especially with these licensing regulations coming up for review. And I think it's important that we let people know, because I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, I very well might be, but the only place that I saw the mid-June part really come out was in a letter that went to people who participated in the town hall. So if you weren't in the town hall or you somehow didn't get the letter, you may not actually know that those consultations are opening in mid-June. So it's really important that we have that information and we let people know that that's happening, because that comprehensive and unified voice is going to be really important as we go forward and figure out what does quality look like, what do we want in those regulations, and how can we have a long-term sustainable plan for this going forward. So yeah,
I think Leah too, and I think what's really important and really nice that I've seen kind of as part of the conversation that's been happening through these AECEA Connect sessions is how in the know people are, and how, you know, kind of connected everyone has become to what's going on, because I guess reality of COVID, having to be connected and finding out what's changing day to day. But I think that, you know, that saying knowledge is power really rings true in this sense. We need to be advocating and almost, you know, really demanding what we want in these new regulations and in that system. And like you said, that comprehensive supported system that we are asking for, and to make sure that we do keep our government accountable and are asking the right questions, and whether we're part of the consultation, whether we're making sure that we're emailing or mailing our MLAs to say, hey, like, we know this is going on, we want to make sure our voice is heard.
And there is a great section on the AECE website, sort of underneath all the updates of what AECE is doing. There's a good list of, here's what you can do. Here, you know, copy the letters that we've already written and send them to your MLAs. And, you know, here's other ways that you can get informed. And there is a national petition for a plan for childcare going forward that's been put out, so you can sign that. So there are lots of ways to get involved. And that being said, the time has come for us to hear from you. So we do want to hear how it's going for you. If you're not open, what are some questions you have? What are you curious and worried about? You know, what might you want to know? How's that, you know, what has that decision been like? If you are open, how has it been? What's working? What's not working? What kind of supports have you received? So we do want to have a conversation about how that's going. The last webinar, we had some really rich conversation about, you know, how people were navigating the emergency childcare situation, and now we're potentially all in that boat of trying to navigate what that looks like, and how to bring people back, and, you know, staff and families and children. So if you would like to speak, again, we may not be able to get to everyone. We don't have as many people on as we've had in the past, but do use the hand up function, and then Laura will let you know if she's going to call on you, unmute you on our end. You'll still have to unmute yourself. If you'd like to put a question for one of us to read out in the question box, please feel free to do that too. So I think we're ready to go ahead. And I see one hand up.
Okay.
There's
Lisa Buckix. You've been unmuted if you have a comment or question to make. Oh, no.
Nope.
Guess not. Jennifer Horlack, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
Good morning, everybody. I do have a couple of questions, and then I just kind of want to speak to our center and reopening. So my first question is, how do we educate parents better? Because I think it's really important to start drilling into them how important quality childcare is. Because I really still feel like parents are just looking for a safe place for their kids to go, and they're not so worried about that quality care, just safe care. Does that make sense?
For sure, Jennifer, and I think you bring a very valuable point. And I was in I guess a Zoom meeting with I always mispronounce her name, but the opposition minister Raki,
Yes.
and she has said the same thing. She had definitely encouraged us to educate parents. What I can say is we're kind of doing some brainstorming as to how we can get the message easily out to educators so they can pass it on to parents in kind of like a parent format. But you're 100% right that parents do need to be a part of our advocacy. And yeah, I think some centers are doing it just by telling the parents, but I do agree that we, hopefully with our brainstorming, we'll be able to come up with some plans for that.
That's good. I just wanted to make sure, because I know, so for us, so we're one of the first 22 ELCCs. So our funding ends at the end of June. As far as I know, there's been kind of articles that are hinting that it's been extended because of COVID and not being able to go through those regulations again and talk about that funding. So I hope so, and I hope they announce that soon, because I'm about to announce basically a closure of my center, because at the end of the day, we could not ask parents to pay $1,400 a month to keep the center open. It's and then now you add on all this extra cleaning and sanitizing, and we're down to 16. We're usually at 30, and we're down to 16, so we're losing fees right now. I mean, there's no way, we're not sustainable. That's the reality. So, but we've been open for the last week. I feel severely overstaffed right now because I have 8 kids per room and 2 staff in each room. And then I have 2 staff outside of the room just to help with breaks and stuff. So we haven't been full yet based on that 16. So I do feel severely overstaffed. But at the same time, staff are getting burnt out just cleaning all day long, trying to stay within those guidelines. So it has definitely been challenging, and we don't feel like we get that time with the kids as much anymore because we're worried about social distancing and cleaning and stuff like that. So it's been very different this week.
I can imagine that's really stressful for the educators, that balance of care and cleaning and, wanting to give the children a sense of, normalcy, being back in their center. Are most of their families ones that you had previously in your center, or have you gotten a lot of new families?
I only got 1 new family just because I knew the family and their daycare didn't reopen for phase 1. So I had 15 children that we previously had come back, and then added this 1 new family because they were stuck and I had the free spot.
Okay.
When we move to phase 2, once approved, I think it'll be a struggle to fill those spots with my current families, because I think we've kind of capped out on all the ones that are back to work, or even comfortable putting their kids back to care. There's 2 sides to that. But I know that there's a few here in Fort Saskatchewan that didn't reopen. And so I anticipate that we'll be able to fill those spots with those children. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for all your work.
Okay. We'll move on to the next here. Sylvia Jensen, if you have a question or a comment to make, then you've been unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I just I had just a comment about Jennifer's question that I wanted to share first. She was asking about how we educate parents about quality care versus safe or custodial care. I think one of our biggest roadblocks is that, you know, our society and our governments put a lot of importance on educating children from ages 6 and up, but not so much in educating our younger children. And so that's one of our biggest roadblocks, is that we feel like we're the only ones telling parents that it's important to have quality education for their younger children, whereas the society at large and our governments are not telling them that same thing by not funding childcare, early childcare as much. So I think if we keep working in that direction, parents will get the message from more people other than just us. So that's just one comment I wanted to make, but I originally put my hand up because I am in a center that's open and I'm an educator. So I work in Calgary at a nonprofit center, and we open this week. We currently have 12 kids that have come back. We could have up to 32, but that's just the number of parents that either need or want or feel safe or have the money to send their parents back to care. First of all, it's felt just wonderful to be back at work and back with the children and back with some of my colleagues. It's just felt really wonderful to be back doing what I love to do, but it definitely has been challenging keeping up with cleaning and sort of feeling like, yeah, you can't engage with the children in that same kind of close way that you might have been able to before. I think one of the biggest challenges we've had so far, though, is with the guidelines, and that they seem to be changing day by day. So that's definitely hard to keep up with. And also that they seem to be less restrictive. And I have a lot of questions about that. Like, is it because they felt like it's safe to lift those restrictions, or whether it's people, they've gotten feedback from centers saying it's too difficult to do this, or I don't know, because I sort of agreed to come back to work based on the guidelines they had last week, but then they've since updated them. And so I have to kind of keep reevaluating if I feel safe being at work based on the changes they're making. So that's also kind of a challenge, and something, you know, we're not getting a lot of explanation of why they've lifted those restrictions. So it's kind of, that's tough. And we're expecting to have visits from licensing and health, and we haven't yet. So we're hoping that once we do, we'll get clarification on those things. But yeah, that's been my experience so far.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. I think that's
really interesting, Sylvia, you know, because I don't know if that's sort of in people's thinking or not, that as they change the expectations and the regulations and whatever needs to be happening, that like you said, people are then possibly going to be constantly reevaluating, you know, do I want to be at work? Do I want my child to be here? I was expecting this and now it's this. And we were having a conversation before we started the webinar about that it's really challenging to even find out what exactly those changes are, because when you go to the website, it doesn't actually tell you what's different. So I think that's really good feedback to know that this is a really complex situation, and parents and educators, you know, if the information's changing day to day, it's really difficult to make decisions about it. So thank you for that.
And I think also, you know, you were speaking to your first point there about just how we're viewed by society. And I think that really feeds into that system building that we were talking about in the beginning, and just getting that recognition from all points with that solid system to be recognized and valued like you know, kindergarten and up are. So thanks so much for sharing this morning.
You're welcome.
And that's something I think we have some power to influence now, because at the moment with COVID has been all about safety and security and that custodial care. And then with accreditation being dismantled, so to speak, our government does really seem to be focused on if it's safe, then it's a good place for young children. But what does that really look like? And you know, our advocacy around what the licensing expectations could be going forward, I think that's going to be really important.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. So I just have from the text box a question to other people in the session here from Denise Lindsay. She says, I'd be interested in hearing thoughts on planning from centers that have reopened. The restrictions and guidelines lend themselves to a very structured and prescriptive approach within the classrooms. How have centers adapted their planning to still allow for open-ended and experiential learning that remains aligned with the principles in the ELCC framework? So just if somebody wants to tackle that question who is open, that'd be fantastic. But
I have many of the same questions, Denise. That is my biggest question. How do we do anything but make sure everyone's alive at the end of the day?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next person. Roxanne Langevin, you've been unmuted if you have a question or a comment to make.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you once again. I was just wondering about daycares that are in schools. Is there anything new on that in terms of reopening?
Last that I heard, it was up to the school division on whether or not they allow centers operating within their schools to reopen.
Sorry.
So from Children's Services perspective, they're saying it's fine, but it's up to the school that you guys operate in whether or not the center will be allowed to open. But it's the last that I heard.
Okay. So then it could be different with different school district or whatever?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay. Elma, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this last name. Muchachik. You've been unmuted. If you have a question or comment to make, you just may have to unmute yourself as well. Oh, nope. It's not. I'm going to go back to Jennifer Horlock. You've been unmuted again. You have a question or comment?
I just wanted to comment towards how you kind of follow that flight framework now that we are under all those restrictions and stuff. So one of the things that helps is being severely overstaffed, obviously. So we have 2 educators per 8 kids. So really they get 4 kids each. So it's way easier to manage than 1 to 6 or 1 to 8. So that helps a lot. We've been creative about how we set up the room. Making sure that we've really done that less is more type of thing, so that allows for us to kind of have the kids explore the little that's there. Like we're finding they're actually exploring it because there's less to choose from. They're using their imagination. Like I watched one boy take the blocks and the tracks, and that's all that was there, and he built like a bridge and a ramp, and he would never have done that before with all the other stuff that we used to have in the room. The other thing is that we've been inventive with how we set up stations. So for like Play-Doh and water play, we still have that in the classroom. We've just done it very individualized. It's taken a while for the kids to get used to no, don't share, but it's working, and we're able, and like they're enjoying the activities, I find, way more because we've taken so much out of the room to eliminate all that cleaning. But it truly is a less is more kind of thing. So yeah, that's how we managed to do it. I hope
Thank you for
helps.
sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Oops. So I do have something in the comments here, and I'm sorry, Jenny, I think by accident I may have just put your hand down, and there's quite a few people in here, so I can't find you again if you did want to talk, but this question came from her as well, where I think it's good to ask this because I think everybody is feeling this way a little bit about, like she says, I am scared to reopen. Is anyone feeling this way? I think across the board, a lot of people are. This is a scary situation that everybody is in. So you're definitely not alone with this, I do not think. Do you guys have anything else?
I think I've honestly been hearing the same thing, is everyone wants to make sure that they're doing so safely for themselves, the educators and the children. And when the regulations and the guidelines are changing frequently, it is hard. And I am sure a lot of people are scared.
And there's a comment from Twyla who says that we didn't plan, we're just trying to keep the children safe and having fun.
Okay. So I have somebody else in here who has said, in regards to what they're doing with the children and everything to work on quality, from Marietta Stephen. I've suggested that staff use their whiteboards, blackboards to start a web type with the children's interests being captured so that we can gather materials for the children to explore their interests. Less is definitely more. Just a couple of follow-ups after that in relation to the I'm scared, is just curious about what everybody is afraid of. Is it health? Is it liability? I have, so yeah, if you want to speak to that as well, it's definitely a personal topic as far as you being scared and nervous and everything for different things. So, but this is a safe platform. I would like to consider. We're all in this space together. And I do have another one where it's the health of the kids that they're concerned for. Another one is I'm scared for the liability in case something happens in the center. Those are all totally understandable. And you guys are definitely not alone through this, for sure. Alrighty, let's move on to the next hand up here. Nazma Begum, you've been unmuted. If you have a question or a comment to make, you may just need to unmute yourself here. Maybe? Nazma, did you have a question or a comment to make? Nope. Okay, I will move on to the next. Seema Manchanda, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
I have a question. Right now, our daycare is open, and because of the social distancing and limit of the kids, we have siblings like the different age in the room, and with the different age of the group, sometimes it's very good because the brother sister is in the room, but sometimes it's very hard for the entertaining because of the make the elder one busy, and because the younger one is making them like more interrupted. And for this, we are thinking how long we can keep the one sibling in the room.
So it sounds like there are definitely some challenges as well as benefits to having that mixed age group, as well as siblings in the mixed age group. I think it definitely sounds like it changes the dynamic. And well, I don't know personally how long these guidelines or recommendations are going to be in place for. I understand that when I hear it must be very, very challenging, a new type of challenge in your day for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your question, Seema.
Thank you.
I'm going to, I'll cycle through the people who still have their hands up. Just if you do not have a question, I just ask that you do put your hand down. Otherwise, we keep cycling through you. So we'll go to Alma Muchachik. I'm sorry if I butchered that. You've been unmuted. Oh, I guess not. Okay. Nazma Begum, you've been unmuted if you have a question or.
Sorry, Laura.
Oh, Nazma Begum, did you have any further questions or are your questions done? Gonna go with likely done. So that's the last of my hands up for now. But I do have a couple just in the comments here coming through. One of them is, have you spoke to liability in past webinars? It is something I am curious to know the recommendations or what others are doing. Do people have a specific waiver? Are they collecting evidence of the following rules? I don't see any following rules. We haven't spoken about it in past webinars. This is the first time it's come up through them. So these are good questions to ask. I have another hand up. Tammy Vick, you've been unmuted. If you have a question or comment to make, you just may need to unmute yourself.
I was just gonna say, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna talk in regards to liability. It's, you've got to kind of talk to your insurance broker. When I spoke with ours, he basically said as long as, and he talked to his higher up people, as long as you're following the guidelines that the government has given out, then your liability, you're covered that way. We've gone above and beyond for a few things, again, just to kind of cover ourselves even more, like with the temperature checks, how it says the parents are to do it before the children arrive. We still check the children's temperatures when they get there, as well as a couple of times throughout the day, just to ensure, you know, we're monitoring the signs and symptoms. And he basically said, as long as you're doing what's there from the government guidelines, you're covered. But again, I would suggest you have to contact your own insurance company on that for liability.
Thanks for sharing, Tammy.
Okay, so we are back to the question comments. One of them is, in our out of school care, we currently only have 3 children, or I guess this is a comment more than anything. Have 3 children. The kindergarten children questions are, why can't we be together, and how come they have been provided bins with craft supplies for each child's use? Definitely a tough situation trying to explain this to children.
Twyla, I've seen some interesting children's books that have been circulating online, and I think you would have to maybe go through and just obviously read them and see if they are age appropriate and something that you're comfortable and your program's comfortable with reading to the children. But there are some resources that have come out for children and just talking about kind of space bubbles and all that. So I'm not sure if that's maybe something you could look into, but.
Yeah, no, I know we've shared at least one of those books on our AECEA Connect resources. I think others we've shared just on our Facebook page as well. So there's quite a few that are out there and that are good for children to have. And it's just a better way of explaining it to little people who may not have the same understanding of what's going on around them as what adults would.
It's so tricky, and it's one of my biggest concerns about all of this is that we're taking very seriously children's physical health, but I'm not quite sure the guidelines don't address how we support children's social and emotional and mental health through this, because they're used to being able to come to this space and play with one another and connect with one another, and now it's quite different. So what does that mean in the long term? I won't go on a rant. I already have a rant about this, but I won't say it again. I'm sorry. We can go on.
Okay. Okay, I've got another hand up here. Candace Kickstra, you've been unmuted if you have a question or comment to make.
Can you hear me?
We can.
We can hear you.
For centers who are open, we're hoping, I don't know. I was in yesterday and it just seems overwhelming, the idea of trying to keep it this way and to keep it sustainable, but that's not my question. But for those who are open, how are you, like, someone was talking about building trains and stuff. Are you limiting how many kids are in a center, or 2 kids playing next to each other? Like, I'm curious what that looks like. I know I can set up individual things when it comes to sensory and manipulatives and stuff, and that's my plan. But those bigger centers, like, I just don't want to feel like the kids can't connect with each other still, and I just wonder if anyone has any input on what that looks like.
Oh, I was muted there. Thank you, Candace. Jennifer Horlock, you've been unmuted.
So in regards to the children gathering, so we do try to limit 2 to 3 kids around in a center just to kind of help with that social distancing. But really, at the end of the day, kids don't social distance well. So it's just really the best thing to do is just try to keep, you know, everything clean, keep getting them to wash their hands. So we'll have them kind of go wash their hands once every hour. We try to keep an eye on what's happening. So if someone sneezes or if they mouth a toy, or, you know, we try to teach them don't touch your face, because the reality is they want to play with their friends. You can't stop that, right? So you just have to put other things in place to kind of help them.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think this is like our last session where we should just keep you as our question answer for us. So thank you for your support with that. That's great.
I'm trying to be realistic too, so it's a learning.
Yeah, and I think that is a good point where, like, there is a lot of questions about how do children social distance. At the end of the day, children don't social distance well, if at all. So you just have to really minimize the risks and go from there. But I think children also still need that connection, whether that's at least being around the other children and communicating with them to support their mental health through this as well.
Definitely. And what's the impact of the long term expecting children to social distance from one another? You know, they may not get sick, but are there other things we're not really thinking about? Really thinking about it holistically of how can we protect physical safety while at the same time allowing children opportunities to be children and have those experiences that are valuable for them during this time.
Yeah. And I think that's why they wanted to keep the groups smaller. So having only the 10 people in a room type of thing is so that you kind of create your own pod with that. If you can keep consistent day to day with the same children in the same groups with the same educators, then the danger is minimized at least a little bit. Rather than if you're constantly switching up their groups and everything, that's where things I think would become more worrisome. But the consistency, I think, would really, really help maintain the physical distancing that they can do, if any.
Just really think about your rooms when you go to divide the kids. So we put the siblings in the same room, obviously. But when I divided the room, I ended up actually separating best friends by pure accident. So one of the kids yesterday, I had said, you know, are you liking being back at daycare? And she went, yeah, but I miss Kira, and that's her best friend, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, right? So now I'm trying to think, okay, how do I get them in the same room now without breaking that cohort, right? So really think about your rooms when you put them together.
That's a really good tip. Awesome. Okay, I will move on to next questions. Thank you for your help with that, Jennifer. It's greatly appreciated.
Anytime.
So just a couple of comments in here, and then I'll move back to the hands. One of them is has there been any new information released surrounding the reopening strategy for preschools? I have not heard anything yet. Leah and Lisa, have you guys heard anything about preschools reopening?
I
Nothing
haven't
specific other than they're looking at the best way to make it happen. That was the last thing I think I saw on Twitter from the minister, is that they're trying to figure out how to make it work, but I had no details about what might happen. So
yeah. Another one that's just a comment about how to set up activities and everything from Twyla Horn. She said, I provided chalk and put a table in between them and let them draw on the floor. The two girls had a blast. We also laminate our card games so that we could play with them. Those are good tips. Thank you. Okay. Going back to the hands up. Marlene Alkan-Kepka, sorry if I butchered that. You've been unmuted. If you have a question or comment to make, you just may need to unmute yourself. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Next one, Tammy Vick, did you have another question or comment to make at all? If so, you may need to unmute yourself.
Mine was just another comment again about rooms. I can't remember the last lady who was answering kind of people's questions, but I talked to our health inspector, because when we originally opened for essential workers, we only had 3 classrooms open. Now with the relaunch, we can open our other 2. And so I had asked him about moving children to the rooms that they quote unquote belong to. And he said, we're fine to do that as long as it's only like a one-time move. You get them in their cohort and then they stay. So not that they're moving and moving and moving, but if you do a one-time move to their room, to a new cohort, like he emailed me back to say he was okay with that. So, you know, when you talked about getting children in the rooms together with their friends or whatever, again, I'd say talk to your health inspector, because ours was okay with that.
Thank you for sharing, and I think that's a very valuable point and something that I've heard from programs as well, of just making sure that you are connecting with your health officer and your licensing officer, just to kind of see what is the expectation for your program, and kind of run your questions by them, and then you have that kind of that frontline first-hand information that you need. So I would encourage you definitely to reach out to those people to help out.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. Excuse me. We have a question in the chat box that says, the centers that are open, are you using puzzles and books? Jennifer, I see that your hand is still up. I'm gonna unmute you. If you have an answer, a comment, question, anything. Oh, nope. Okay, we are at the end here of our questions in the comment box, and oh, I have an answer to your question in regards to puzzles and books. Somebody has said I was going to use them and take them out for each cohort. So I think with that, it's cleaning in between uses and everything. And I do have another hand up now. Okay. Marlene Alkan-Kepka, you've been unmuted. If you have a question or comment to make, you just may need to unmute yourself to speak.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello. Hi everyone. Thanks for hosting today. I just wanted to share that it sounds like everyone's doing everything that they can and doing the best that they can to keep the children safe and following all the guidelines and all the restrictions. And for us, it's been definitely slow, a lot of cleaning in between. We do use puzzles and books still, and we do sanitize in between each use. The minimum, like the cohorts, is also a good thing because the space you can utilize the social distancing. However, I agree with Jennifer and everybody else is that when it comes to children, there's really social distancing is a different thing. And same thoughts here. What will be the impact long term for them if we were going to be like, stay away, you cannot play with each other and everything like that. Another thing I wanted to share for us around liability and fear coming back, and whatnot is that I've been having very transparent conversations with our families. So at the end of the day, it is their decision as to whether to come back and access early learning and care, and appreciating and respecting and understanding where it is that their intention and stance are for their family household. So, and then just letting families know that I do everything that I can in my center, keeping our children safe and our families and our staff. However, if something were to happen following all those things, that I don't have control of, right? It's basically making sure children or families that are coming in or looking visibly ill, they're not accessing the center. It's a lot more strict for sure. But making sure we follow all our guidelines and having those transparent conversations with our families, basically. And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question here in regards to preschools. Do you think preschools will have access to top-ups now that accreditation has been abolished? This one I'm not 100% on. We would certainly hope so, since preschool has pretty much been left out to date on everything. But as far as how that's going to work or if that's going to happen, I haven't heard anything. Have you guys? No?
I haven't, but I think this really brings up a good point, especially as we're kind of wrapping up here in the next little bit, is just that advocacy piece. So having, in the beginning, we talked about all the groups. So out of school, early learning, preschool, day home, everybody needs to come together and advocate. And there's a question that says, how do we advocate for this? I think a big part of it is AECE is advocating for all members of the sector, and we go back to that membership piece. And we really want to hear from you. So everybody that is in preschool, part of your advocacy work could be becoming members of AECE. It could be mailing or emailing your MLA, and kind of regardless of which party you stand for or which party your MLA stands for, the important piece is that we want early learning and childcare to be recognized. And I think that will kind of get in the process of recognizing preschools and day homes and all the groups as a collective, cohesive system moving forward. So these are all really, really good questions, and I hope that one day we can all come together strong. But yeah, advocacy is huge.
Yeah. Somebody did say in the chat box, I had heard that preschools were not included, even though we fall under the same licensing. So that's status quo, unfortunately, for preschools, if that is the case. Yeah, so I don't think we have a lot to add on this. Do you guys?
No.
At AECE and ALC, we are continuing to advocate for the entire system of ELCC and the creation of an actual comprehensive and well-supported system, which means that each type that's included under the early learning and care umbrella should have access to the same resources and supports across the board. So I think we only really have time for maybe one more question, or do you guys want to move on to the Wordle?
If there's a question, we can do that.
Okay. I have one of the hands up. Jima Ganarwal, you've been unmuted. If you have a question or comment to make, you just may need to unmute yourself.
Okay, hi, thanks for this webinar. I've been listening to everyone's comments and feedback. It's been very useful. And I wanted to ask to those who has, who have already opened their day home or daycare, what about the activities of outdoor or connecting to nature and then risky play or anything sort of, how are you maintaining that, safety measures and then following the guidelines of, the COVID's Are you really doing any activities outside as well?
It's a very good question.
I need to stop muting myself because I start talking and nobody can hear me. We'll move on. Jennifer, you have your hand up again. You've been unmuted. If you have an answer or a comment, question to make, you just may need to unmute yourself.
I do. So we have set up, so we're lucky enough that our outside structure, like our outside outdoor play place has very little for structure. So we only have one climbing dome. We've put a schedule together so that each cohort has a certain period of time that they can go into the play yard, and they have a bin of toy specific to their room. And then after they're done, we kind of go through and we wipe down a couple of those big pieces that we've left in the yard. And then we do walks. Luckily, we're very close to a lot of like walkways and paths. So they do a lot of nature walks. And last summer, they were very friendly with one of the neighbors with a big apple tree, and they would come with apples every walk. So hopefully that will happen again this year. But yeah, we still, I think we try to get outside way more than we probably used to, just because the guidelines aren't as strict there because you're outside. So.
Thanks, Jennifer. I think we can move on now at this point because we've hit just after 11 now. So transfer the power back to you, Leah.
Leah, you're just muted.
There we go.
There you go.
We have another Wordle that we want to create from this. So, I mean, we have talked a lot about the children's mental health, and we also want to know what kinds of things are you doing to take care of yourself during this time, to manage your own mental health and those self-care pieces in terms of managing stress. So again, we have the Menti. So if you just use whatever device you have and put in the code, then we'll create a little Wordle about what we're doing for self-care during this time.
And as you're working on that, I just wanted to say thank you so much once again for joining us this Saturday morning. I really have been enjoying these sessions, and getting to hear from everybody and learn from everybody and connect with everybody has been really amazing. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your weekend. Don't forget to visit AECEA's website, Facebook page to stay up to date, and keep on with advocating for this profession. Oh, and remember to keep your eye out for those reg review bites that are coming out starting next week.
Yes.
Zoom game nights, that's fun.
I saw cooking and eating, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm gaining weight while in self-isolation. It's way too easy when your kitchen is just down the hall.
So true. Wednesday takeout. That's fun. We've been doing that too.
Yeah.
One other thing that I'm just seeing here in the chat box is that we did do a poll last time about asking if we should be splitting these Connect sessions up into different sectors. So, you know, out of school, preschool, day home, all of that. So we did get the response from that. We just need to go kind of to the drawing board and see what's going to look like, what that's going to look like moving forward. So we did hear you. Thank you very much for your responses. And yeah, stay tuned for how we will try and make that happen.
I like the reading one. Should almost start a reading group.
So we'll give the Wordle another second or so. But but we will kind of close off with another slide about just how to stay connected. So the AECE website is a great spot. Facebook, using social media and using the tag Childcare Matters Alberta. So just really staying connected with the things that are happening. So Lisa talked a lot about that advocacy piece. So there's lots of different ways that we can kind of manage that and get involved in different things. So thank you for coming today, and we will let you know about how we're going forward and when the next one is. So stay tuned.
Have a great day, everyone.
Laura, do you mind? I'll stop sharing mine if you want to just put up that last slide.
Yep.
For people, just so they can kind of see that before they go. And we did that. Yeah, that one, the connected one. Awesome.
Yeah, so lots of different resources. The mental health one for educators, I think, is a big one. And just as a reminder or something, is just take care of yourself through this as well. You've got to be healthy in order to care for the children.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Have a great weekend.